Welcome to a very different kind of explainer today. Usually we use this space to break down complex research, analyze data, look at trends, all that good stuff. But today I'm putting my own life out there. We're going to deconstruct a story of adoption, of buried secrets, and ultimately of two very different families, my families. We're stepping straight into my own personal narrative, tracing what has absolutely been the most heartbreaking, yet somehow clarifying emotional journey of my entire life. For years, I lived with a hidden truth, a reality totally obscured by silence. So let's walk through the unraveling of that silence together and look at the pretty profound discoveries that were waiting for me on the other side.
The whole foundation of my reality shifted with just one devastating sentence. She had never had just one child. She had two. For 18 years, I firmly believed I was the only child born to my biological mother before she gave me up for adoption. But the shocking twist, the truth that was kept locked away from me for almost 2 decades, was that she had a son. My brother had been allowed to stay with our biological grandparents, and I was the one given away. Take a second to really let that heartbreak sink in. Imagine the sudden realization that your entire origin story is fundamentally incomplete, that someone you never even knew existed was chosen over you. Facing a reality like that, you're obviously left with one burning, incredibly painful question. Why me? Why was I the one who had to go? I asked, and for the longest time, no one could answer. The devastating truth finally came to light through my biological grandfather. And it wasn't about a lack of resources or bad timing or any of the things I had imagined to comfort myself. It was about something far more arbitrary and honestly, far more painful.
The sheer unfairness of it all was just staggering. Think about this contrast. There was my brother, who was kept and raised by the family, and then there was me, the sister given away. Why? Because my grandfather believed that girls were simply harder to raise, so he insisted I be adopted out. I wasn't given away because I was unloved before I was born. I was given away purely because of my gender. It was this absolute black and white calculation that fractured my life before it even really began.
For so many years of my life, I carried around this deep, heavy belief that I was just unwanted. But discovering the actual truth, that brought a completely different kind of quiet anger. My basic trust in the world was completely shattered because it wasn't that I was unwanted. It was a conscious, calculated decision that because I was born a girl, my gender somehow made me less valuable. Someone had simply decided I mattered less. Let me tell you, it is incredibly hard to rebuild your sense of self-worth when you realize your abandonment was based on something you had absolutely zero control over.
But life has this crazy way of offering light right when the shadows seem way too deep. Months after this incredibly painful discovery, things started to shift. I stepped into a softer, much more healing space. I finally got to meet my brother. His name was Daniel. Literally just imagine walking into a room and locking eyes with a stranger who has been wondering for 18 years if you even existed. All that intense anger I felt toward my biological family's past decisions, it honestly just began to melt away the second I saw him.
And the connection we had was absolutely undeniable. It was wild. We had the exact same eyes, we had the exact same laugh, we even shared this super specific, weird habit of tapping our fingers against a table whenever we got nervous. We sat down and just talked for 8 straight hours. It was rapid fire. We literally couldn't get the words out fast enough. It didn't feel like meeting a stranger at all. It felt exactly like finding a missing chapter of my own life, a piece of my own biology that I never knew I was even allowed to claim. Now, finding Daniel was beautiful, obviously, but I still had a massive fracture waiting for me back at home. I had to begin the very slow, delicate process of repairing the broken trust with my adoptive parents, because they were the ones who had hidden the truth about Daniel from me all those years. We had to sit down and they had to admit they made a terrible, fearful mistake by keeping my reality a secret. And I had to find a way to really listen, to navigate my own anger and try to see the flawed, terrified human beings behind the parents I love so much. During this really profound reconciliation period, a major light bulb went off for me. I realized that love wasn't erased by biology. I loved my adoptive parents deeply, and families absolutely can be built in all sorts of different ways, through adoption, through choice, through random circumstance. But trust must always be earned. While love is this expansive, forgiving thing, honesty is its absolute foundation. Without honesty, the love feels incredibly fragile. My parents had to earn my trust back, day by day, hard conversation by hard conversation.
Which brings us to this pivotal moment about a year later.
a moment of total emotional clarity for me. My adoptive dad walked into my room and handed me the exact same envelope I had found hidden up in our attic years before, the one labeled, "For Emma, one day." Only this time, it wasn't empty. This time there was actually a letter inside. A letter he had written on the very day they brought me home, long before the fear and the insecurities and the secrets ever took root.
I'll never forget what it said. "We don't know if you'll ever forgive us for our mistakes, but from today forward, every heartbeat we have belongs to you. You were never our second choice. You were the answer to every prayer we ever made." Reading that letter, just holding the physical paper he had touched the day I became his daughter, I completely broke down. I think I cried harder in that moment than I ever had in my entire life.
But here's the thing, my tears in that moment, they weren't from sorrow. They were overwhelmingly tears of clarity. Because it finally clicked. Being adopted wasn't the secret. Keeping it a secret was. The heavy pain I carried around for so long wasn't because I didn't share my parents' DNA. The pain came directly from the silence. It came from the shadows. Once the light of truth was actually allowed to shine on my story, even the broken, messy parts of it, the shame completely disappeared. And that brings me to exactly where I stand today. I have the family that gave me life, Daniel, the biological connections, those missing chapters I finally found. And I also have the family that taught me how to live, my adoptive parents, who chose me, prayed for me, and eventually learned how to be entirely truthful with me. I live my life now with two completely imperfect yet incredibly real families. Both are messy, but both are mine. If there is a promise I hold fiercely for my own future, it's this. Love grows stronger in honesty, never in silence. If I ever become a parent, I know one thing for absolute certain. I will never, ever hide the truth from my children. Secrets do not protect us. They just isolate us. Real connection, the kind of enduring love we all want, can only thrive in the light of complete honesty.
So as we wrap up this explainer today, I want to leave you with something to really chew on. Is the family you choose just as important as the family you were born into? Think about it. Biology gave me a brother and a mirror to my own traits, but choice gave me parents who literally devoted their heartbeats to my existence. Think deeply about the people in your own life who have truly earned your trust, the ones who stand in the truth with you, and ask yourself, what actually makes a family real to you? Thank you so much for walking through this journey with me today.